The idyllic calm of Pahalgam, a picturesque town nestled in the Himalayas, was shattered on April 22, 2025. Gunmen opened fire on a group of tourists at the scenic Baisaran Meadow, a popular destination known for its lush greenery. The attack, executed with chilling precision, left a trail of carnage. 25 tourists, including both domestic and foreign nationals, lost their lives. A local pony rider caught in the crossfire also perished. News of the massacre sent shockwaves across India and beyond. The attack dominated headlines, replacing images of snow-capped peaks and pristine landscapes with scenes of grief and bloodshed. The immediate aftermath was a blur of chaos and confusion as authorities struggled to comprehend the scale of the attack and tend to the wounded. India reacted with fury, pointing the finger squarely at Pakistan. Accusations of harboring and supporting the perpetrators were swift and unequivocal. The attack was deemed an act of aggression, a deliberate attempt to destabilize India and derail its efforts to promote peace and normalcy in the Kashmir Valley. The Pahalgam attack unleashed a torrent of accusations and counter-accusations between India and Pakistan. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, known for his assertive stance on national security, wasted no time in condemning the attack. He vowed a befitting reply to those responsible, declaring that India would not be cowed by acts of terror. Pakistan, however, vehemently denied any involvement in the attack. Islamabad dismissed the allegations as baseless and irresponsible, accusing India of exploiting the tragedy to further its own political agenda. Despite Pakistan's denials, India remained unconvinced. Indian officials pointed to past instances of cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil, arguing that the Pahalgam attack fit a familiar pattern of militant groups operating with impunity from safe havens across the border. The attack, they argued, was a stark reminder of Pakistan's continued support for terrorism and its destabilizing role in the region. India's response to the Pahalgam attack was swift and multi-pronged. Codenamed Operation Sindoor, it combined a heavy-handed security crackdown in Kashmir with aggressive diplomatic measures aimed at isolating Pakistan on the international stage. Within hours of the attack, Indian security forces launched a massive operation across the Kashmir Valley. Raids were conducted on suspected militant hideouts and homes of alleged sympathizers. Over 1,500 Kashmiris were detained, many without formal charges. Human rights groups criticized the crackdown as indiscriminate and excessive, accusing Indian forces of using the attack as a pretext to further suppress dissent in the restive region. However, the Indian government defended its actions as necessary to maintain law and order and prevent further violence. Pakistan's response to Operation Sindoor was equally defiant. Islamabad accused India of engaging in state terrorism and human rights violations in Kashmir. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif denounced the crackdown as a reign of terror and vowed to raise the issue at every international forum. In a tit-for-tat move, Pakistan expelled Indian diplomats and military attachés, mirroring India's earlier expulsion of Pakistani officials. The diplomatic standoff between the two nuclear-armed neighbors escalated rapidly. Pakistan threatened to walk out of past peace agreements, including the Simla Agreement of 1972, which had established a framework for bilateral dialogue after the 1971 war. The rhetoric on both sides grew increasingly belligerent, raising fears of a military escalation. Section 5. The world reacts. Condemnation and concern. The international community reacted to the Pahalgam attack with shock and condemnation. World leaders expressed their condolences to the victims and their families, calling for restraint and de-escalation. The United States, while expressing solidarity with India, also urged both sides to avoid actions that could further inflame tensions. The European Union echoed these sentiments, emphasizing the need for dialogue and diplomacy to resolve the long-standing Kashmir dispute. However, India's decision to suspend its participation in the Indus Waters Treaty, a landmark agreement governing the sharing of water resources between the two countries, raised serious concerns. Pakistan viewed the move as a hostile act and a violation of international law, warning that it could have catastrophic consequences for its agriculture and economy. The international community urged India to reconsider its decision, fearing that it could further destabilize the region. The Pahalgam attack and its aftermath have raised serious questions about the sustainability of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Kashmir policy. Since coming to power in 2014, Modi has adopted a muscular approach to Kashmir, seeking to project an image of strength and resolve. His government's decision to revoke Article 370 of the Indian Constitution in 2019, stripping Jammu and Kashmir of its special status, was a watershed moment. The move, while popular domestically, was met with international criticism and fueled resentment in Kashmir. The Modi government's efforts to promote tourism in Kashmir as a sign of normalcy were also dealt a severe blow by the Pahalgam attack. The attack shattered the carefully constructed narrative of peace and stability that the government had been trying to project. The Pahalgam attack sent shockwaves through the tourism industry in Kashmir, which had been experiencing a tentative recovery after years of unrest. The attack exposed the fragility of the peace and the vulnerability of tourists in a region grappling with deep-seated political and security challenges. In the aftermath of the attack, tourist arrivals plummeted, dealing a heavy blow to the local economy. Hotels and guest houses stood empty, while shops and restaurants struggled to survive. The attack served as a stark reminder that the path to peace and normalcy in Kashmir remains long and arduous. The incident highlighted the human cost of the conflict and the devastating impact it continues to have on the lives and livelihoods of ordinary Kashmiris. The Pahalgam attack and its aftermath have sparked intense debate among analysts and experts on South Asia. Some argue that the attack marks a dangerous escalation in the long-standing conflict between India and Pakistan, increasing the risk of a full-blown military confrontation. They point to the heightened rhetoric, the breakdown of dialogue, and the potential for miscalculation as factors that could lead to an unintended spiral of violence. Others, however, caution against overstating the significance of the attack, arguing that it is unlikely to fundamentally alter the strategic calculus in the region. They point to the fact that both India and Pakistan are nuclear-armed states and are acutely aware of the catastrophic consequences of a nuclear conflict. The Pahalgam attack has cast a long shadow over Indo-Pak relations, pushing them to their lowest point in decades. The attack and its aftermath have exposed the deep mistrust and hostility that continue to plague the relationship between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The breakdown of dialogue, the escalation of military tensions, and the lack of political will to address the underlying causes of the conflict paint a grim picture for the future. The international community faces a daunting challenge in trying to prevent a further deterioration of the situation. The stakes are high, not just for India and Pakistan, but for the entire region. A renewed conflict between the two nuclear-armed states would have devastating consequences, not only in terms of human